Alright, so here I am. We're going to start on drilling holes for the headstock. And the first part of the operation here, I need to mark. So I've got some of these go-to tuners. They're okay. They work pretty good. They have pretty good mechanisms in them. Main point being is that I want to try to get both sides to be even on the headstock. So I know there are other ways to do this. This is the way that I have figured out that I like the best, and that is to set them in place, and I'm going to mark a line. See, I've kind of got them held in place. I want to make sure that they're even. Okay. Now I have marked 3 spots along the length of my headstock. Now, those lines are not going to be parallel to the edges because there's a taper on the headstock. So the easiest way for me to make sure that these are going to line up on the outside is to use something like a protractor or a clear ruler. Set it up on that center line and draw a line to the edge. Okay, I have some lines on there. Now, because of the figure of the wood and the taper of the headstock, it's going to mess with you. It's going to look funny. All right. So now I have a square, and I can square to the top and draw my lines down the side. Having a allergy day this morning. Excuse me. Now this is important because this gives us a reference on the side that we can then drill to. Depending on how figured your wood is, how dark the wood is, you then may need to adjust, maybe put some blue tape or something on there so that you can mark your lines and see them. Now, next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to mark from the bottom of the headstock. I'm going to mark up to my center point, remembering that I only want to have about 19 or 20 millimeters total, and my top of my headstock is still a little bit thick. I'm at 24 millimeters, and I did that on purpose. So I'm going to mark 10 millimeters up both of those outside lines, and I'm going to come back, I'm going to mark across and connect my lines. That gives me the point I need to drill at. Now if I bring it over here, you can see I've got a center line all the way down the side there. Now, to make sure your drill bit doesn't wander, take an awl. Now, every one of those marks, could put a pinhole. Like so. I would struggle to see if I can see this on the camera or not. Yeah, 33, 7/16. All right, now choose your bit carefully. You want to be just wider than those, and I always forget. I think it's 13/30 seconds. Yeah, 13/30 seconds, and I'm just holding it up here and measuring. This is my easy way. Now, if you really want to get technical, you can take a caliper like this, and I can measure with the caliper, and then make sure that that's going to be good. Very little slop there, so that will work perfectly. Save the 7/16 for later. All right, let me get set up and then we'll come back. All right, so got my neck clamped down to the bench. We've already marked it. And the next thing I'm going to do is this is what's called a brace. It is a old-fashioned hand drill. And I've got my drill bit in there. Now, quite obviously, I don't want to go all the way through the neck, if the headstock, if I can help it. So what I'm going to do is, if I set this piece against my drill bit, I can see exactly how deep I need to do that. What I'm going to do is I'm going to take some of this tape and I'm going to wrap it around the drill bit at that point. And then I know when the tape hits the neck of the guitar that I've gone far enough or deep enough. So here's how I do this. I just put that on the edge, set that on there, wrap my tape around the drill bit. Nice and easy like that. Okay, there's my marker. Now the trick to this is I want to keep it as level as possible. So I'm going to look at my drill bit. I want to go straight in. I don't want that to move though. All right, there's one. Good news is it's probably not going to move on me as much on the middle one. Alternatively, I could set it in Then you can double check your holes. Make sure we line up and that we seat all the way down. I've got to drill a little bit farther. So you can see I put it in there and I've got a little gap, so I know I've got to go just a smidge farther, another couple of millimeters. Alright, fits in pretty easy, so good news, right? So again, I'm going to set this in here, clamp it down, a couple more millimeters in each hole. Knock out the excess and then double check. Here we go. Good reference. Now we're on there. Alright, so the next operation that we'll do after we finish that is actually to put the slots in the front. So I'm going to go ahead and do the other side off camera. It's the same exact method, so I'll get the other side done and then we'll come back and discuss the next portion. Okay, so now we have both sides drilled and it's time for us on the face of the guitar. You can mark it on the back if you want. I find it's easier for me if I mark it on the face. To mark off where my channels will be. You can, if you have a template and you have actually cut out the center part to do this, you can do that. I tend to prefer to do it by hand. So I'm going to mark from the edge, and this is dependent on your plan, your headstock design. Mark in from the edge. I'm going to go 7 millimeters. I'm going to mark 2 spots and I'm going to draw that line. Now that 7 millimeter line is my line for the thickness of that outside edge. Okay. Do that on both edges. From the edge, 7 millimeters. Like I said, this is dependent on your headstock design, so you could be 8 millimeters, it could be 6 millimeters, just depends. Make these lines good and dark. You want to be able to see them. I'm going to measure up from my top tuner line about 15 millimeters. Both sides. Draw that line across. I'm also going to draw in from my outside line. I'm going to come in 15 millimeters. Because again, this is my headstock design, this is what I do. And it may vary a little bit once I get going and shaping and whatever. But that line right there serves as my inside line. Okay. So now I have some lines marked and they're very hard to see on the camera. Alright, so I've got a channel marked on this side and marked on this side. I've got my center line in the middle. Everything references off of that and the edges. Okay. What I'm going to do then is now up here at the top, I'm going to go ahead and drill, and then I'm going to drill down here near the bottom, probably about the same spot. I'm just eyeballing because I'm just going to drill those points, and then I'm going to cut out that waste and with a saw so I'll do one side first. Alright, now your blade, your drill may have a little bit of a chance to wander, so keep that in mind. I'm going to move you over just a little bit. Sorry about the jiggle of the camera. Now those points where I said I was going to drill, I don't want to wander too much, so I'm going to put a hole. I'm just marking with my awl. Okay. I put my, for this purpose, I put my 7/16 drill bit in. And if you'll look, it has a little point on the end that'll help keep me aligned. Stick it in my hole, make sure I'm upright, straight up and down. Make sure you got some scrap under there, so that once you've gone through the headstock, you don't go through your bench top. It's real easy because when you start seeing the wood shavings of your scrap there, you know you've gone deep enough. Alright, now we got our 3 holes on the side, we got our 2 holes on the top. Make sure they are nice and clean all the way around. All right. You can do this with a drill press or a power drill if you like. If you like to make a whole lot of noise. I'm into trying to preserve my ears as much as I can so that I can continue to play and enjoy music. Besides, having something where you go this slow and you can hear yourself gives you a lot more time to not mess up. And I'll still mess up here and there, so You know, take that for a grain of salt. Pretty sure that one went all the way through. Yeah. All right. Now you have holes that you can drill through, or well, you can. What I'm going to do is I'm going to thread my saw through here. You can use a coping saw. I've got a bow saw, however you want to do that. And I'm going to thread it in one side. I'm going to cut down my line, come back around, cut down my line. Or I'll cut down my line and come back and cut down my line. I'm going to do that on both sides. Alternatively, if you felt like it, you could come in here and you can drill holes all the way down these lines, all the way down, and then you can come in with a chisel and chisel out the waste. And I've done it many times that way. This is just the way I prefer to do this now. So, stuff out of the way. I'll clean up and then I'll come back.